This calligraphy clip is about vellum and parchment. This is the material that was used to make medieval books of hours like these and other medieval manuscripts. On vellum in particular, you're able to get really fine lines, such as these hairlines here at the bottom of these letters. And on this piece, these really fine little pen-made lines. And look at this on this V, really spine-tinglingly thin. It isn't about pretend parchment paper like this, which is printed with a pattern to make it look like parchment, and it often has a surface coating, so it's very difficult to get fine letters. It's best to avoid this unless you're very skilled. Vellum and parchment are the byproduct of the meat industry. Some people feel very uncomfortable about using vellum and parchment because of this. Everybody, of course, is entitled to their own view. Mine is that because there are far more animals produced for meat than there are used for the leather industry, far better to celebrate the life of the animal in this way, where you decorate it and this will last forever, creating, can I say, beautiful artworks. This, a poem about butterflies by a friend of mine, Ted Walter. This, and you can see what I mean about getting very fine lines, because this is as small as I could possibly write. If I put my finger there, that might give you an indication of how small that lettering is. A couple of dice here on slunk vellum with gold, traditional gold on gesso dots, and here a copy of a medieval manuscript miniature. The skin here is a large skin. This is vellum, and this is 8 feet square. Quite huge, really. And this is the hair side. You might just be able to make out some little dots here of hair follicles, and just down here some surface veining as the marking. The hair side is much more coloured than this side, which is the flesh side. This is whiter and smoother. It looks like the side that you should use, but in fact the hair side has more tooth and texture to it, and certainly reacts better with a pen. When you're choosing a piece of vellum to use from a large skin like this, you just need to be careful of the fact that here the shoulders are thicker. So too here the haunches, and you might be able to make out this line down the middle of the piece, which is the backbone. Here, though, the ribs are much thinner. Now, vellum and parchment will move if there's any damp or heat, and so you need to choose your piece of skin carefully. There is more about this and more about preparing skin in the DVD available on my website, Illumination, over 3 hours long, and also in my book, Illumination, Gold and Colour, published summer 2015. This piece of skin is manuscript vellum, like the large skin. It's finished on both sides. This is the flesh side, it's smoother, it's waxier, it's whiter. This is the hair side, it's got some texture to it. If you wanted to make a manuscript book, then you could use both sides for writing and painting. If you just wanted to use one side, then the hair side is recommended. This is classic calfskin vellum, vellum being calfskin, and this is prepared on one side only, so the flesh side here is much rougher and much more textured. It hasn't been scraped down, and it's been bleached almost as much as the manuscript vellum. Natural vellum hasn't been bleached at all. You can see it's got much more character to the skin and is wonderful to use for sort of quite vibrant pieces. And here it's much easier to see that it's not finished the other side. Look, there's quite roughness there that you couldn't use for writing or painting. Kelmscott vellum was developed for William Morris's Kelmscott press and can be used for printing. It's got a coating on it which makes it very smooth, and you can see all these skins come from William Cowley Parchment Works. This is the only parchment works now left in the UK producing skins, and is certainly the one that I would recommend worldwide because the skins they produce are of such high quality. This skin isn't any use for writing because of this coating, which doesn't give you a good texture, but it can be used for painting. This skin is slunk vellum. It's very, very thin. It was used as the writing surface for these medieval manuscripts. You can see my fingers through there in the same way as you can see my fingers through the slunk vellum. I asked the parchmenter, and the parchmenter makes parchment and vellum, whether there were that number of stillborn or uterine calves, because this is where this very fine skin comes from. Sadly, calves that have had no life at all. He said no, a good parchmenter can scrape down a skin. And this is what he scraped this down from. This is goat skin. It's not really suitable for calligraphy or painting because it's got quite a bumpy texture. It's more often than used for bookbinding, but it can produce slunk vellum like this. Then the last skin is sheepskin parchment. Sheepskin, and I can feel it here, is quite greasy, and it's produced from the inner layer of the sheep. The outer woolly layer can be separated from the inner layer, and this is what they use. And it's quite difficult to get good crisp lettering on parchment, even when treated. I've got an item on vellum and parchment on my blog post. If you go to my website here and look at the blog, and as I've said, there's also a DVD and a book, both on illumination.